And hello, everyone. Hello, Felix. Hello, all of our viewers and members of the Expanding Consciousness group. We've got another.
Hi, Valia.
Hello. We've got another of our series of expansive conversations today, and I'm super excited about today. Felix 𝗟𝗓𝗓 is a business coach, but he is not just a business coach. He's someone I've personally experienced help from. And I found him incredibly balanced, very helpful, very structured, and very giving. Felix, we're talking about business as a path for spiritual development today. Excuse me. I think it's a massively important topic and very timely. So the first thing I want to ask is maybe introduce yourself and your kind of quick synopsis of your path into business and spirituality. And then we'll move on to a few questions. I've got a few in advance, and then I've got my own questions too that I can't wait to ask you.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. And I don't, and I will never claim that I know everything. But it makes me feel joy to know that some little insights that I have here and there is valuable to some people. So I can't promise that I will be able to answer every question, but I will promise that I will do my best given what I know. And so with your first question, what a little bit about myself and my path. The most easiest way to explain what I do is to look at this picture right here. This is basically what I do. Because there is what I do.
I remember seeing that. Yep.
There is what I do, and then there's what I really do. So that's what I do. I work with service-based business owners, coaches, trainers, healers, teachers of various different modalities to build a sustainable fitness that is ready to scale. And at the end of working with me, my client hit a certain point of where we call hyper-desirability, where people that they want and need goes to them instead of the other way around. The best example of this is one of my most successful clients, and her name is Vivian. She has reached a point in this business where she has been actively turning away her prospects to her nearest competitor, who charges significantly cheaper than her. And they still insist on working with her. They're like, no, I don't want to work with them. I want to work with you. So that is what we call hyper-desirability. And my clients have a moniker that they use to describe this as well. They call it being the sun. Being the sun because the sun just sits and things become possible. The sun just sits and planets revolve around them. But the sun isn't actually doing anything. And by the act of simply being and simply being powerful, by simply being, they become powerful. They are powerful, and many things become possible. Life becomes possible. And how this happens is what I really do. So people come to me for the results, but they don't stay for the results. They stay for the experience that we do on a day-to-day basis, the experience that we have on a day-to-day basis. I help people not just on their business, but I use business as a pathway for spiritual development. And through developing themselves spiritually as their small self and their big self, they transform where they are at from a position of force and transactionality into a position of power and benevolence and giving, like the sun, just radiate things. So that is basically what I do. We run this program I call Unstoppable You. And every morning inside Unstoppable You, like you will see the most craziest committed person that I do not know where else they can exist. But my program, they every single morning they show up and they have this conversation with me. We just chat every morning, and through the process of this chatting process, it's just there's no structure, no flow to the process. It's just chatting every day. We just talk, and somehow all these results will happen. So that is basically me in a nutshell.
Thank you. There was a little bit of downplaying there. Somehow, I don't know how, we just chat. I mean, the truth is they are attracted to you as the sun, maybe in this little, metaphor, and then they become suns in their own little universes for their own reasons and purposes. But I think it's important for our viewers to understand how did you find your spirituality that led you to want to share it with others and perhaps teach, train, mentor, help, guide others to do the same?
I will try to keep this as short as possible.
Is it a story of your whole life, basically?
The most important facets of my life, the most crucial and impactful time of my life. My first serious industry was in the fitness industry. And after many years of being in the fitness industry, I opened my own business. I somehow attracted a number of investors who would invest in my place, so we started it. But it was probably the darkest times of my life. In situations like this, you got to forgive me a little bit because I tend to go overly long into the sob stories. So I'm trying to consciously give only the most relevant facets of this story. So during those years, there have been many mistakes that I made, many mistakes. But what's most important is that I felt towards the end of my business, I felt that I have failed my investors. I have failed my team. I have failed my clients. I failed myself. And it was a very hard moment for me. It was so bad on my health and my mental health that I became like suicidal. And at the same time, after the whole 4 years of me running that gym business, I was diagnosed with hypocortisol. Hypocortisol means, funnily enough, hypo means too low. Cortisol is a stress hormone. So how is it possible that you have too low stress hormone? It's because my adrenals were completely burnt out to the point where it cannot secrete hormones anymore. So very funny, yeah. So after that was done, that was my biggest moment. Probably one of my most biggest moments in life was when I finally let go of the business, because the business hasn't been working. It hasn't been working for a very long time. It wasn't working because of me, and my stubbornness and my insistence on doing certain things my way instead of the way that the market wants. In other words, I was too self-centered. I wasn't client-centered at all. I was very, very self-centered. I was too hung up on my opinions and my methodology, which I thought to be amazing, legendary. I'm so great. Look at this. It's so scientific. It's so this and so that. But nobody cares about all of these things. They just want results, and they just want what they came here for. So I was too stubborn. So finally, because I was defeated, I had no choice but to surrender because I was defeated. And and after that, it took me a few months of really just recovering. And that was when there was this idea that was playing around in my head that I really don't know what I'm doing. And I always thought that I knew what I was doing. But because I was defeated, I was forced to confront the truth that I don't know what I'm doing. I have to face it. So I said to myself, from this moment onwards, I am going to get a mentor no matter what. Like every time, and from that moment onwards, anytime I enter into any new interest in my life, my first thing to do is I would just get a mentor. I was tired of enrolling for the 3-day courses, the 2-hour webinars, and all of that. I need somebody who is willing and committed enough, and that's the most important part. They must be committed enough to me that they will tell me straight to my face what exactly I am missing. They should have that level of courage. And the only way I could think of that makes this make sense is actually if I pay them money. Like, so I'm tired of effing around. Like, I want to pay someone now. Really, I want to pay someone. So I have a little bit of money left over from the sales of the equipment. We sold at a loss, so we recovered some amount of money. And I also took up a personal loan. At the point in time, I was subsisting myself through personal loans. And I was like, okay, I only have like these 3 months of survival. After that, I need to go and get a job. I used the remainder of my money to go and hire a mentor. And the first thing that my mentor taught me, and this is a story that I keep telling people because it's such an important thing. The first thing she taught me was, Felix, your opinions don't matter. And when you tell that to someone who is as stubborn as I was, who so value my own knowledge and my abilities and my skills, it is like a slap to the face. But it was also, I sensed the profound truth in that, because I've always been too hung up about my opinions. Where has this led me? Nowhere. So I followed her. I found some small level of success through my online business at a point in time. And that was when I started to realize I was bored with fitness already. So what should I do next? And in the meantime, while I was having that small success here and there, I was reflecting a lot about my own life and how I was blinded by my ego, by my pride, by past glories and my own so-called transformation, no matter how meager and small it was. I truly come to terms with how insignificant I am, and how little, how small I truly am. And in the past, I would feel a lot of grief about this. It's like an anger and anguish, like, why am I so small? Why am I so insignificant? But in that year, when I finally realized this, it became a very liberating feeling for me. And I'm insignificant. My opinions don't matter. And it's such a wonderful feeling. I started to explore a lot of different, like I said, whenever I want to explore a new area, I would go and get a mentor. So I followed around, but the one that most resonated with me, the one that influenced me the most was Sadhguru. So I enroll in his course, whatever, any one of his courses that I can get. And through him, I got introduced to the Indian world of spirituality. I started to study their books and their philosophies and stuff. And it makes a lot of sense. Like the pragmatism of all of that, it just makes a lot of sense. And so I wanted to become somebody that teaches spirituality. And I promise you this will lead up to somewhere. I spent a whole year trying to promote myself as a coach that specializes in self-mastery. And I failed. Even though I had the skills already, even though I have learned the skills from a mentor, even though I have improved my abilities as a marketer, as a teacher, as a on-stage closer, I still failed. Like it went nowhere. It went nowhere at all. I got some small little revenues here and there, some events here that done was kind of successful there, it's kind of successful there, but it didn't really gain the traction that I thought it would. And that was the second time I got another slap in my face, where I attended a course, and this person, another business mentor, tell me this. He said that, Felix, your offer must be to your target market what a life jacket is to a drowning man. How is your offer a life jacket to a drowning man? And I start to question myself again. Why am I so insistent on spirituality? Because I was too hung up on my own opinions. Because I thought it is the most important thing. Because I thought that that people should know these things. It's amazing, like self-mastery is everything, spirituality is everything, that's the secret, that's the key. You got to see the truth and all of that. Once again, I was too hung up on my opinions and my preferences and my ideas and my belief systems and all of that. My market doesn't care about all of these things. If somebody is starving and you try to preach to them about spirituality, you're being cruel.
Mm-hmm.
People need to reach to a certain point where they can feed themselves, when they have the time, when they have the head space to not worry about survival. When they reach that point in time, then you talk to them, then they naturally, they will start to question the truth of all of these things. They will start to naturally question, what's the point of life, about all this, so at that moment I start to realize that. And another time, once again, I feel a whole lot of grief because I had to let go of all of my ideas and all of my opinions and preferences, but this time I did so willingly. I surrendered willingly because my market has been telling me all this while. They have seen my successes. They've been telling me, Felix, we want to learn how to make money from you. Felix, we want to learn how to do marketing from you. We want to learn all these things. But Felix has been the one who is insistent on teaching the things that they don't want to learn. So Vivian, just now, the case that I was telling you about, funnily enough, she joined me the first time around. And I was teaching how to overcome procrastination, mindset and all that stuff. I thought that it would be a small gateway into the truth that I like, the true things that I really want to teach. And she didn't stay. She didn't stay because she said, Felix, you're teaching mindset. I want to learn business. So she left. The moment I switched back into business, the moment I switched into business, she rejoined and my business started really to pick off, like with such little effort required. It really started to pick up.
And on that point, thank you for sharing, first of all. There was quite a lot there, actually. I've heard things around courage, around sometimes, a lot of the times, needing help for somebody to point out that you need to open your eyes and put away your ego and actually see what's staring you right in the face. And then there is a process of, that change cycle, the grieving cycle that equals the change cycle in business speak, where you need to kind of let go of all of your old beliefs and ideas, and be completely opened and purified for something new, make the space for something new to come. And I hear you talk about what people want. And I mean, again, essentially, we're going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You can't talk to people around something, on the last step or higher step before they actually feel safe and their basic needs are met. I agree with all of that. I think what I'm interested now to maybe explore a little bit more is how each human, or maybe, do you agree, let's start with that, do you agree that we all as humans, we come on this planet in this particular, form with a purpose, right? And that purpose may be to write a book, to paint, to write a beautiful piece of music, or to train people to do something. And we happen to be good at it. We just kind of reject it and deny it until it keeps slapping us in the face. Go, no, actually, you're good at it. Like, let go of your pre-existing beliefs that you've acquired in whatever years. Go back to what you're good at and what people want from you. But in order to do that, you've got to listen to what they want. But then there is a danger by being led by the material world as well. So how does this work then? Or how do you explain this difficult balance at times, or a seemingly difficult balance to strike between doing what you're called to do, or you think you're called to do, and you're good at, and marrying that up with the materialistic world and maybe being led by the market because that's where the money is at?
What I'm really confused is why do you perceive those two things as separate?
I think I'm channeling the common perceptions. They may not necessarily be my personal beliefs, right? But I'd like for us to maybe spend a few minutes on that, just to maybe remove some myths from it?
There was once I felt called, no, not once, many times, where I felt called to do things. Like the time when I started my business, like the time when I was so insistent on doing fitness a certain way, in a way that my market doesn't want to. Like the time when I embark on this, trying to teach self-mastery, spirituality, mindset, life coaching, I felt called. At that moment in time, I honestly, truly believe that it was my purpose. But it was not my purpose. It was not my purpose because those are the things that I like to do. Sometimes what we are called to do and what we like to do can be one and the same. But there are also times when it is not one and the same.
So how do you differentiate? Because my personal belief is that we should do what makes us happy. That's how we know we're on the right path. Now, to know what makes us happy and be honest about it to ourselves is a tricky part.
What is happiness to you?
It's when I feel joy, I feel peace, I feel harmony with environment, with myself, with what I do. And I get a little dopamine hit as well on the neuroscience level.
It is my view that happiness is not the same as joy. Because if you think about any form of activity that anybody is, we are saying, we refer to this activity, this person is happily playing football, or this kid is happily playing a computer game at a cyber cafe somewhere. If you go and look at them, when we refer to them as so-called happily playing, do they feel joy 100% of the time? They don't, right? There's a mix of various different kinds of emotions. Frustration, anger, sadness, grief, loss. And then there's the joy, and there's the happiness, the bliss, the peace. Like it's a whole spectrum. When we go and watch Avengers, like it was like, wow, we're watching it so happily, watching it, right? But imagine if you are the character inside the Avengers. At a point in time, you wouldn't recognize it. You wouldn't think of this whole thing as something interesting. It's like, it's a terrible thing, you see? To me, happiness simply means to be engaged. The more engaged we are with life, the happier we are. If I am constantly rejecting and rejecting and rejecting, I am not engaging with life. To accept only the positive areas of life and to deny the negative areas of life is to live a part-time life. When we are fully accepting of all the different spectrums of life, both positive and negative, then we live a full-time life. We are engaged and we are happy. This, to me, means that happiness is realized. It's not found. It is when we are truly able to see this as it is, without attaching all these meanings into it. Then we start to really appreciate it. I was telling, I want to talk a little bit more about this because I think it's so easy to just fly over this, but I think it's very important that I emphasize this. I was just having a conversation with my students this morning about this particular topic. In the second time that that mentor told me your offer must be like life jacket to a drowning man, I went through 2 weeks of grief, an intense, severe grief. That there are so many nights that I could not sleep because I I know the inevitability of me doing this. My ego did not want me to let go of what I wanted to do. I somehow had in my mind like an image of me being like Sadhguru, but that is not my path. That is my ego wanting something. And I really went through that whole period, like just intense grief. Like I had this plan, this very well laid out plan and vision and for life. But at the same time, Sadhguru's words keep on coming into my head. It is not my plan for life, it is life's plan for me. It is not my plan for God, it's God's plan for me. And there's only one divine being that does deals. That divine being isn't God.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's very important. How did you get that conscious awareness of this is my ego that wants me to deliver on this plan that I've just built up for myself, and I must just surrender? Because grief doesn't come out of nowhere. Grief comes from that realization.
You really need to see, and before you are able to see, this whole idea about what is happiness and what it needs to be completely dismantled. Because there is a strong attachment to a strong desire, strong attachment to our desires. We like something. And when we like something, this is good. We don't like something. When we don't like something, this is bad. And when we are entangled and so engrossed in our likes and dislikes, we can't see. You know, so like just now, when I said that I was going through this 2 weeks of grief, I saw, and I saw also that these 2 weeks of grief, it has taught me how wonderful grief is, how beautiful the tragedy is, and there is a certain bliss in that as well.
Shedding. Letting go.
Shedding, letting go. It's a wonderful, wonderful feeling of ecstasy and bliss. But on the offset, you look at someone and you're like, tears rolling down their eyes, and they look like they are sad, but they are not sad. Yeah, like it's the most wonderful time in your life. So here's the thing. The reason why I preface this so strongly, is because I want to use a knife as an example. A vegetable knife is living its purpose when it's chopping vegetables. But if the knife is complaining with every grind, it will never be a knife. In order for a knife to be a knife, it needs to go through heating, melting, forging, hammer whacking it all the time, being cut, it has to go through all kinds of treatment. Life is giving you treatment. Your trauma, your sadness, your grief, your anger and frustrations, your belief systems, no matter how true or how false it is, all of this is life's treatment. For somebody who is unable to receive life's treatment, they cannot see their purpose. It's right there in front, but it's like, no, this is not my purpose. This is not my purpose. We think we know better than God. But by the way, I'm not a Christian, just in case you're wondering. But I do use word.
So we talked a few weeks ago about our emotions, or feeling this is right for me, this is wrong for me, being our own personal compass, right? Because how else do you know that you are ready to be a vegetable knife? How else do you know that forging, that hammering, that this, that is the right way? And you don't just decide now, I want to be a spoon.
You see, you are deciding now.
No, you deny that. That's an interesting one. So you keep bringing me back to the fact that actually things have been decided. We just are there to accept it.
You can choose not to accept it.
How does it feel when you know this is the right thing to accept? Or how does it feel when you deny something or choose not to accept it, but it was the wrong thing? I keep going back to, there's got to be a moral compass, not moral, individual compass for everyone that gives them that fulfilling understanding, fulfilling acceptance of this is my path. I don't need to know why or how or what. It just feels right.
This is going to be very hard for some of the viewers to hear, but our feelings don't matter.
It's hard for me to hear that. Okay, go on.
So,
Elaborate.
because when I say my feelings, there are certain ideas about how I think I should feel like. But how often does life give you exactly what you want?
Not often, but it's not about getting what you want. It's about getting the overwhelming feeling, and I go back to the word feeling because that's the only thing we get that is different from everyone else. My feeling of this is the right thing for me and I accept it. Feeling is the only
I understand, but there is no need for the feeling, because even in the feeling you are still trying to decide. I have feelings. I acknowledge my feelings. I feel my feelings. But when certain things are happening, I will check with myself. Am I willing to allow it to happen? If I'm not willing to allow it to happen, I resist. And I will pay the price of that resistance. But I chose to pay the price of the resistance. When I am willing to allow it to happen, I just step aside and it happens.
How do you make that choice between resisting or accepting?
I just choose there are things that I can control. There are things that I can't control. There is and one of the things that I cannot control is my current development in consciousness. It's like it's like a plant. You can only control how much soil, how much water, but you can't control its rate of growth. It will happen when it's ready. It will bloom when it's ready. So I am of a certain level of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And at my current level, there are things that I cannot accept.
Mm-hmm.
So I check in with myself and I see, what can I accept right now?
That's what I wanted to. What do you mean by I see? Because to me, that equals I feel that's the right thing for me right now. That those words equal. But how do you mean I see that's the right thing for me right now?
It's not of what is right for me. It's what I'm willing to surrender to, what I'm willing to tolerate.
Those are still at the level of emotion. What you're willing to tolerate or surrender to is a feeling.
Yeah, okay. So it's a feeling, semantics. So whatever it is that I cannot. So I don't choose now. Because I know that there are certain things that I can, certain things that I can't. There are certain things that the ones that I can't, if I force myself to accept it, like I'll be living the rest of my life wondering. And then there are certain things which I can't ignore, that I feel that I really must have it. I would know that if I don't have it, I would also live the rest of my life wondering what if.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that this is not what I want, and so I just do it. We gotta use an example. One of my students, when they first joined my program, he said that, I want to impact, I want to create, I want to help people, I want to do this, I want to do that. It sounds very noble, right?
Mm-hmm.
But over time, as we do our daily calls, more and more layers are peeled. Today would be the 6th month that he's with me. And he revealed to me recently, he said that we had a conversation about this, and he said that actually what he's really looking for, he just realized, is significance. He loves it when people are paying attention to it. That's why he's a teacher, because the moment when he teaches, everybody is in front of him.
Attention on him, yeah.
Attention on him. And so a lot of his business choices makes no sense. When you look at it in terms of when he says, oh, I want to give impact, it makes no sense. I want to have more profit. It makes no sense for profit. But when you look at his business decisions in terms of creating significance for himself, it makes 100% make sense. So he's like, Felix, now that I know this, how do I let go of this significance, this need for significance? Then I tell him, how can you let go of something that is not yours? If you haven't had enough, if you do still feel lacking in terms of your significance, right? And the reason why you feel lacking is because you keep on denying that you want significance, when the truth is you do want significance. So said, just go for it. And he went for it. And 2 weeks since that moment, now he's like, Felix, yeah, I'm getting bored with significance.
Love it. That's been, to me, this is how I hear the story, right? Somebody was in denial about what really was important to them, mattered to them, in fact, was bringing them both pleasure, joy, and they were good at. Now, to me, that's some way towards finding your purpose, because I agree with you. I think we have one. We don't create one for ourselves. I think we have one, and we spend time being molded, guided, sometimes punched back on the path, you know, to go and kind of head towards it again and accept it finally and embrace it. No, so I love that story. How does that make you feel in terms of bringing spirituality into what is your business, but in fact enriching someone else's life in the way that you did with this particular example? By just actually telling him a simple truth that was the right time, the right space, and he was in the right frame of mind to hear.
You notice my entire life story is all about me letting go, and all about me coming to terms with what is real. And you look at the way he is, this friend of this student of mine, he came to terms with what is real. Me, if I reject, I for the longest time suspected it was something other than profitability and whatever. But I surrendered to his version of truth, even though it is not the truth. If I had not accepted his version of the truth, by surrendering my truth, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The relationship wouldn't last this long. I wouldn't get to assist, be witness. I wouldn't get to bear witness to his transformation. So there's so much surrender here as well. Spirituality, a lot of people think that it is separate from everything else, but it is one and the same. Because spirituality is about understanding what is real and what is not. It is that seeking, that constant effort that is being put into seeing, into experiencing. I can't use the word experience. Seeing. Somehow seeing is the right word. To see the truth. All paths lead to the top of the mountain, regardless of whichever side of the mountain you come on.
So then, it's beautifully said, first of all, thank you for that. But then how do we reconcile, and in fact, do we need to spend any time trying to reconcile the dilemma of, let's call them immoral, unethical businesses and business practices with, well, and the way, let's talk not about everyone, but the majority or the obvious majority of the world seems to be okay to live in right now, versus the seeking ones who want to expand their own consciousness, who want to impact in the most positive way that they are able to the consciousness and the around them and the collective consciousness. Because again, we're coming back to the title of this conversation. Most people would not see business as a path to spiritual development. But I think the statement you're making is that they are one. If you choose for them to be one, they shouldn't be divisible.
I feel that I need to go into more details about that part, about how business can be a path for spiritual development. What is spirituality? Spirituality to me is about seeing the truth. It's about bearing witness to the truth. It's about being in touch and in contact with the truth. And there are things that what is coming in between us and the truth is our ego. What we want, what we don't want, what we like, what we dislike, all of these things are all the lenses that is clouding our judgment and clouding our eyes and our perception. Then the path towards the truth is the shedding of such ego. It's the shedding of the lenses, letting go, dissolving. My whole life has been me going from a very hard person to letting go, letting go. Now everything I talk about is all about surrender. When you are dealing with business, business is unforgiving. Either what you do works or it doesn't work. If you are too hard up on what you want and what you don't want, and you're not giving the market what they want, it's not going to work.
And what if what they want is not what you're willing to give, but you need to feed the family and you find a compromise and one compromise leads to another and you're back in the land of superegos?
Isn't duty, responsibility, love? There's a family that I want to feed. There's a role that I must play in my community, in my organization. There's a position that I have in society. Does that not sound like sadhana to you? Does that not sound like how monks would have their life to you? They're performing their duties. That's all they do. How joyful is it to sweep the floor and stand in the corner and asking for money? How joyful are all of those things? Why do they do it? Precisely because these things are uncomfortable to the ego. It is shedding, it is grinding at the ego.
So people with higher consciousness are the ones that, we all have the windows, just for a lot of us, it's suited up, it's covered in mud, and, we try and kind of wipe the window and see, but the ones who are kind of completely
more like we put like the glasses, we paint the glasses so that we are seeing beautiful images on the glasses rather than seeing the beauty that is the nature outside of the glasses. We put it ourselves. It's not really soot. We put those layers ourselves.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you. I feel like this is we're just scratching the surface of probably a lot more, longer and deeper conversations, but I think it's time that we thank you so much for your candid answers, for your views, and for sharing your truth with us today. Thank you.
Welcome.
And my favorite thing that I think I'm personally going to take away is that to accept just the positives and reject the negatives from life is living life part-time. And I don't want to do that. I want to do full-time life.
1 minute to add on to this. just now I talk about how wonderful grief is, how beautiful tragic is. If you can somehow recognize and appreciate the negatives, if you enjoy the negative and you enjoy the positive, what is this life?
Pure joy.
You see? It is heaven on earth. It is nirvana. It is an experience that everyone is after. Complete liberation. But you cannot learn how to enjoy something without first exposing yourself to it. Right? I used to hate coffee. Now I'm addicted to coffee. Right? But we all learn into it, right? So I think there is something that I really wish to get off my chest. I feel that there are too many people who identify themselves as spiritual, who aren't exactly spiritual. They are trying to use spirituality as a vehicle to gain more pleasure out of life. But this is not how but spirituality is not a tool, to me, at least. This is not the way. It is to deepen our understanding of everything. It is to surrender, open up ourselves to all the experiences of life, good or bad. Sweep the floor, cook food, right? Eat, sleep, the mundane. Spirituality is not a wonder drug to make you feel high. It is something to get you closer to the truth. And the truth is you are already happy. The truth is you are already complete, you are already wonderful. But the dissonance that they are thinking that they are not happy, they are thinking that they are not wonderful, or they are broken or whatever. And they are trying to come up with all these ways to fix something that is not even broken in the first place. Right? All of these things, experiences that we are, this is all part of the plan. That's the original plan. So to really just stop using spirituality as a gateway drug to feeling good and feeling more good. It's not about feeling good. That is, I really think I want to share that.
Yeah, so if I understand it correctly, just a kind of quick summary of that is spirituality is not a tool, it's not a vehicle for advancing your own egotistical desires, beliefs, or what you think you should be doing. It's actually nothing but acceptance, surrender, getting back to the essence of what we came here with, which is already there. We're just rediscovering it.
To just see.
Yeah.
To just see clearly.
Taking the glasses off.
Taking the glasses off. Stop looking at life through a rose-tinted lens, like glass, because you want things to look good and whatever not. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was incredibly enriching for me. I hope the viewers enjoy it as well. And I hope you enjoyed being interviewed.
I feel like there is so many things that we kind of glossed over.
The surface of, and never got into. Perhaps we'll continue in a series of conversations.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Felix, thank you so much.